Jungkook was still close, too close, standing right in front of Wine. Her heart began to beat fast, each thump louder than last. Nervousness crawled beneath, making her breathe hitched. The way his piercing gaze held her in place, everything made her chest tighten. Suddenly a voice cut through the moment. Jungkook turned his head slightly and saw one of their business partner, Mr. Lee, was standing there with a nervous smile. Actually, if you don't mind everyone asking you. Jungkook didn't move, not at first. Wine immediately tore her gaze away from him, her cheek burning, unable to hold eye contact for a second longer. Only after a moment, Jungkook casually straightened himself, as if nothing had just happened between them. I'm coming, he said in a cold voice. Mr. Lee nodded quickly. Of course, take your time. He smiled again awkwardly and left. Jungkook turned his head back to her. Do you want to come? He asked, voice low. One looked up at him, her cheeks warm with embarrassment from the earlier closeness. She quickly shook her head. Jungkook's eyes lingered on her for a second. Then he simply nodded once, and without another word, he walked away. One final exhale, a long, shaky breath she hadn't even realized she was holding. Why do I feel so nervous when he comes closer to me? She whispered to herself, bringing both hands up to cover her cheeks. What is wrong with me? She mumbled again, flushed and confused. Why am I feeling this way? One stumbled across the parking lot, her steps uneven, as she tried to keep her balance. Behind her, Jungkook followed, his expression taut, like someone had just jerked him awake. Turning around, one titled her head. Cold husband, why are you so slow? Can't you walk faster? Jungkook shook his head sadly, muttering under his breath. Look who's talking. Stumbling on her feet. Did you say something? Wine asked, raising his eyebrow. Titling her head, Jungkook reached her side. His tone clipped but calm. No, let's go. But Wine grabbed his hand firmly. No, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay here. She tried to step away, wobble slightly on her feet. Instantly, Jungkook's strong hand caught her, holding her firmly yet gently. Wine looks up at him. A sweet, apologetic smile spread across her face. Oops, sorry. Jungkook gaze softened as he looked at her. Careful, he mumbled gently. Wine pouted, her doll-like eyes locking onto hers as she smiled sweetly. Jungkook asked, still holding her carefully, his voice calm but tinged with concern. Just a little, just a small one, she replied, smiling innocently. Jungkook shook his head, but Wine's hand suddenly cupped his cheeks, drawing him closer. His brow knitted in a frown, but he didn't pull away. You know, Wine began, her voice barely above a whisper. Whenever you come closer to me, my heart starts beating so fast. I get so nervous, like it's thumping so loudly. I don't know why I feel like that. Do you know why? Wine asked softly, her eyes filled with curious, to-like question. Jungkook's eyes immediately narrowed at her words, his heart skipping a beat. He looked at her, really looked, and in that moment his gaze softened. It's okay, he said in a cold yet gentle voice. Let's go home. But Wine shook her head firmly, pouting slightly. No, first tell me, why do I feel like that? Jungkook's heart fluttered again. As he looked at her pout, he opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, one tiptoed and pressed a soft peck on his lips. Jungkook froze, eyes widened in shock. After a few moments, one pulled back slightly, a cheeky smile tugged at her lips. I, she stammered. Without hesitation, Jungkook pulled her back by her waist, capturing her lips again. Wan's eyes widened up first, as she clutched his shirt tightly. His lips moved gently against her. Wan closed her eyes and started to kiss him back. After a few moments, Jungkook realized there was no movement. He broke the kiss and looked down. Wan had fallen asleep in his arms. A soft chuckle escaped him. How can she sleep in that serious moment like this? He murmured, shaking his head with a soft smile. Carefully, he lifted her into his arms and headed towards the car. Django stopped the car in front of his mansion. They had finally arrived home. He glanced to his side and saw her, while still sleeping peacefully. A soft chuckle escaped him. Gently he unfastened her seat belt and stepped out of the car, moving to her side, carefully lifted her in his arms. One stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Her arms instinctively wrapped around his neck, and she nuzzled against his chest, seeking warmth. Jungkook chuckled again, shaking his head at how childish and adorable she looked. Carrying her inside, he headed straight towards their bedroom. Once there, he gently laid her down on the bed, moving with care he didn't show to anyone else. He pulled a blanket over her, a small frame, tugging her in softly. Then he stood still for a moment, simply watching her, her peaceful face, her soft breathing, and that tiny pout she always had in her sleep, something he had grown secretly fond of. After staring at her for a few more minutes, he finally turned and walked into the washroom to freshen up. When he came out, now dressed in casual clothes, sweatpants, and a simple t-shirt, his eyes drifting immediately back to her sleeping form, he moved towards the bed, settling down beside her, turning her into her side. He watched her quietly. Without saying a word, he reached forward and pulled her closer. His arms wrapped around her waist, guiding her head to rest on his bicep. It had become a habit in the past 1 month, falling asleep with her in his arms like this. Somehow he had grown used to it, maybe even comforted by it. His hand rose to her cheek, brushing gently over her flushed cheeks. And as the memory of what had happened earlier replaying in his head, he smirked lightly. I'm sure when she wakes up, she will fall right off the bed from embarrassment, he mumbled to himself. With another soft chuckle, Jago closed his eyes. And soon the two of them drifted off to sleep, wrapped in the warmth of each other without even realizing it. It was already morning. One eye slowly fluttered open. As her vision cleared, the very first thing she became aware of Jungkook's arms wrapped securely around her. His hand rested on her waist, and her cheek was comfortably settled against his bicep. She blinked, then carefully tilted her head upwards, only to find Jungkook's face right there, inches from hers. He was still sleeping peacefully, holding her as if she belonged there. Her heart instantly began to beat faster. The last night's memory came back to her mind. Everything she had done, every moment, every word. Her eyes widened instantly. A sharp gasp left her lips before she slapped her palm over her mouth. What did I do? Embarrassment crawled all over. How am I supposed to face him now? What will he think of me? Her thought tightened as she whispered to herself, almost crying internally. I shouldn't have done that. After all, this is just a contract marriage. He will divorce me once he finds someone he actually loves. I can't feel like this about him. Beside her, Jungkook stared at the sound of her voice. Slowly he opened his eyes, and the first thing he saw was her white, innocent, doll-like eyes looking down, filled with worry, as if she was in the some terrible thoughts. He understood immediately what was going through her mind now. A small chuckle escaped him. In a deep, husky morning voice, he said, "Why are you making that face so early in the morning?" Wine flinched immediately. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. It's not, it's not like that. I just. But no words would come out. Her voice kept falling. Jungkook pulled her even closer, his gaze flickering between her eyes and her lips. Then, in that same low voice, he mumbled, "Don't you think you have something to say to me?" Wine's heart thumped even harder, fluttering. Suddenly, she blurted out, We are already getting late for the office." Without another second, he stumbled out of Jungkook's arms and practically ran towards the bathroom to freshen up. Jungkook watched her little escape. A small smirk spread across his face as he chuckled under his breath. Such a troublemaker. "Sir, the file you wanted," an employee said as he stepped into Jungkook's office. Jungkook looked up from his work, a faint frown forming between his brows. His deep voice filled with room as he asked, "Where is Miss Boyan? Shouldn't she be the one bringing me this file?" The employee immediately dropped his gaze, nervousness flooding his face. "Sir, Miss Boyan told me to deliver it to you, sir. She said she was busy with some other work, so she couldn't come." Jungkook stared at him silently for a few seconds. First, she had left for the office before him, and now she was sending files through someone else. A playful smile appeared on Jungkook's lips, but he quickly masked it with his cold, unreadable expression. He understood exactly why she was acting like this. "You may leave," he said in a flat, icy voice. The employee bowed quickly and rushed out of the room. On the other side, one sat at her desk, a bundle of nervousness. She ran her fingers through her hair in frustration, completely messing it up. Last night's event replaying in her mind again and again. Her words, her kiss. She couldn't forget any of it. She whispered to herself while internally crying, "What will he think of me?" She shook her head, trying to gather courage. "I'm not going to face him today. I can't." Just then her phone buzzed sharply on her desk. She froze. Her eyes moved slowly towards the screen, and upon seeing the caller ID her body froze. Jungkook. She shut her eyes tightly, inhaling a deep, shaky breath before finally answering it. "Yes, sir," she said, her voice trembling. On the other end, Jungkook spoke in a cold, commanding tone. "Come to my cabin right now." One's heart started to pounding wildly. Before she could say anything else, Jungkook ended the call. She closed her eyes again. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to walk into that room. She could already imagine what he might say. He probably angry. Maybe he was going to scold her. Whining helplessly under her breath, she slowly stood up from her chair. With tiny hesitant steps, she began walking towards Jungkook's office. Wan stood outside Jungkook's cabin door, her palms slightly sweating. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself, "You can do this, Wan. You can do this." Gathering whatever courage she had left, she breathed in again and knocked softly on the door. "Come in." Jungkook's deep voice echoed from inside. Wan pushed the door open and stepped into his office. She closed the door behind her, then slowly lifted her eyes. Jungkook was sitting behind his desk, his cold gaze immediately locking onto hers. Her heart skipped a beat. She walked closer to his desk, lowering her head. She let her hair fall purposely over her face, hoping it would hide her face. Jacob noticed it all, a small smirk tucked at the corner of his lips. "My schedule, you didn't tell me," he said with an icy tone, and let out a tiny sigh of relief under her breath. At least he wasn't bringing up last night. She slowly lifted her head and began listing his schedule. While she spoke, she took a small glance at him and froze. Jungkook was staring at her with an unreadable, piercing gaze. Her heartbeat sped up uncontrollably. Trying to ignore it, she quickly finished going through his schedule. Then, not wanting to stay a second longer, she spoke in a small rush. "So, may I leave now?" She turned slightly, already preparing to walk away when, "Did I tell you to leave?" Jungkook's deep voice cut through the room sharply. One froze on the spot, her eyes shut. Slowly, very slowly, she turned back towards him, her voice shaking as she asked, "What do you need anything?" she said almost shudderingly. Jungkook rose slowly from his seat. His movements were calculated. As he started walking towards her, Wan's heart dropped. Her breath caught. Her fingers curled against her sides. He kept coming closer and closer. Instinctively, Wan stepped backwards. Then her back hit the wall behind her. Jungkook stopped right in front of her. Towering over her, his presence distance between them. His breath faint across her cheek. In a deep, low voice, he mumbled, "Don't you think you are forgetting something to tell me?" One shallow heart, her lips trembled as she slowly lifted her gaze to him. I already told you your schedules." "What now?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Jungkook leaned in, even closer, eyes narrowing slightly. His tone dropped into that deep husky that made her knees weak. "Not this. I'm talking about last night." Wan's eyes widened instantly. She knew exactly what he meant. Then Jungkook's hand slid to her waist as he pulled her closer to him. Wan's breath hissed, her eyes snapping up to meet his. "Do you remember what you did last night?" Wan froze. Of course, she remembered every second of it, but she couldn't say it. She was too embarrassed, too flushed. She turned her gaze away, unable to look him, and muttered, I don't remember anything, actually." Jungkook watched her carefully. "I understand," he said, his voice deep and unreadable. His hand lifted, brushing a strand of her hair behind her ear as he leaned closer. Then he mumbled, "I should make you remember, shouldn't I?" One's eyes widened again. Nervousness washed over her. Her heart now started to beat fast, so fast that she could almost hear it echoing inside her chest. She was starting to realize what she was feeling for him, but she couldn't tell him. She had no courage to say anything. Not when this is a contract marriage. She couldn't let herself to feel anything for him. She stared at him for innocent, confused eyes, eyes that unknowingly made Jungkook's own heart beat flutter for a second. Jungkook's thumb brushed against her cheek slowly, his touch unexpectedly gentle. Her thoughts broke instantly when Jungkook said, "Don't ever ignore me like that," he mumbled, voice deep. "Okay?" She blinked. Then Jungkook stepped back slightly, a small, unreadable smile tugged at his lips. "You may leave now." One snapped out of her thoughts. She lowered her head quickly and practically ran out of the office. Jungkook watched her retreating figure with his soft eyes. A smile slowly spread across his lips. Finally, he mumbled to himself, "I know what you feel about me."